Alright, Elementalist time. Using the new pistol in the open world takes some getting used to, but once you discover its strengths, it turns out to be a really great addition. Pistol works best as a condition weapon, and while you could make it work for all 3 elite specs, it does something incredible for Tempests. It allows us to do relatively high DPS while still building defensively, and while our new weapon shines when fighting champions and enemies who tend to stay alive longer, with the right runes and sigils, we can make it work just as well for general gameplay. Let's take a look at our traits and start with Fire, which will boost our power, grant us a fire aura every time we attune to this element, and let our critical hits inflict burning on our target. The Grandmaster trait is rather flexible. We could choose to let fire fields last longer or inflict blindness on burning foes, but my preference goes towards Pyromancer's Puissance, which stacks might and consumes up to 10 stacks when leaving fire or overloading fire as a Tempest. When this trait triggers, our damage and burning will increase based on the amount of stacks we consume, and it'll interact with a specific relic which I'll explain later. Next is Earth, which will increase our defense, help inflict bleeding while increasing its duration, and help us deal more damage to bleeding foes. This trait line has a few interesting options for open world builds. Strength of Stone grants condition damage based on toughness, which synergizes with stat combos such as Celestial or Trailblazer, and Written in Stone allows us to use Signet's active abilities without losing the passive benefits, and grants us an aura as well. My preferred elite spec in the open world is Tempest for its ease of use, while still adding onto Elementalist strengths. Tempests can overload the element they're currently attuned to, which deals damage or heals, and inflicts burning or bleeding when overloading either fire or earth. Our traits will improve this mechanic by allowing us to overload quicker, granting us stability at the start of an overload and an aura when we successfully complete one. I've been mentioning auras throughout this video, and if you're new to the game or Elementalists in general, it might be easy to brush these aside. But understanding these could be the difference between having a good time and a great time. Every aura will do something for you when you take a hit. Fire aura burns enemies while granting you might. Frost aura reduces incoming damage by 10%. Shocking aura stuns anyone who lands a hit on us, and magnetic aura will reflect projectiles. As we won't be punished for using Signet's active abilities, we'll bring Signet of Restoration, which heals every time we cast a spell, Signet of Earth for some extra toughness, and Signet of Fire to improve our critical hit chance. Both Signet of Earth and Fire are worth using off cooldown, as they inflict conditions while granting us an aura. The final utility slot is up to your personal preference. Feel the Burn could work as a catch-all solution, but if you want an extra stun break or defense, you could easily swap this for something else. And my elite skill changes based on what I'm currently doing. When soloing champions or bounties, Cliff of Elemental will provide you with an extra pet to tank some of the hits and help deal damage or heal you. But when running around or doing meta events, I prefer to use Rebound, which can help avoid lethal blows and grants an aura based on our current element. In the video, I'm running Celestial gear with Runes of the Forgeman. Tempest will make use of about every stat on this set, and the runes will improve toughness and burning duration. I chose burning because the damage rounds faster than bleeding, which will help take care of regular enemies quicker. But if you're mainly fighting champions, then crate runes are definitely worth considering instead. Instead of Celestial gear, you could also run with Trailblazers for even more defense, or if you want to be able to take your gear to instance group content, I recommend going Vipers with Trapper runes instead. Our main hand weapon is of course a pistol, and we'll use a Sigil of Bursting for an overall increase to our condition damage. And for the offhand, you can literally bring whatever. Warhorn is generally considered as the best option, but you'll notice in the footage I'm running a Focus, which works just as well. And if you're someone who prefers some extra mobility, I can highly recommend using the Dagger offhand, which also comes with an amazing skill when you're attuned to Earth. The sigil in the offhand will depend on the runes you chose for your armor. You'll want Agony when you're using Forgeman runes, Smoldering when using Crate runes, or Malice when you're using Trap runes. While Relic of the Fractal is considered the best for single target damage and group content, I prefer Relic of Norris for this build, which will grant us a stack of Norris's Hunger every time we remove a boon from an enemy, as well as every 3 seconds. And at 10 stacks, we'll grow larger, deal more damage while taking reduced damage ourselves, and convert the percentage of our damage to healing, which will basically make us immortal every so often. At this moment, we not only get stacks when stripping or stealing boons, but also when we consume them on ourselves, which is what our Grandmaster Fire trait does. This might get fixed at some point in the future, but for now, we might as well enjoy it. As an Elementalist, we basically get 20 weapon skills instead of the regular 5. Knowing how these interact with each other will make a big difference. For this build, I generally start in fire and use any skill until I can overload, before swapping to water. There I use Frigid Flurry or Pistol 2, which will inflict 5 stacks of bleeding, but also counts as a projectile finisher, so when using this ability in a fire field, will apply 5 stacks of burning on top of that. Overloading water should only be done if you need the extra healing, otherwise it's fine to swap to earth and use those skills until you can overload once more. Normally you'd also want to attune to air, but I find that in the open world you can generally skip this unless you need some crowd control. And that's basically it. Comments and questions down below or on Discord, and like and subscribe before you go and watch my next video.